right, let's introduce tonight's squad, shall we? We have former White House senior strategic advisor, the great Mercedes Schlapp, Democratic analyst Jason Nichols, Newsmax host extraordinaire Jen Pellegrino, who knows everybody that I know in Washington, and the wonderful Republican congressman from the great state of Florida, Matt Gaetz. Boy, what a lineup. This is great. Now, let's start with a really crazy story that I know everybody here is, and certainly Congressman Gaetz is following. While the media is focused in a laser-like way on the Jean Carroll and her civil trial against former President Donald Trump, everyone has apparently forgotten all about Tara Reade, who was, of course, she's accused President Joe Biden of sexually assaulting her, and she has pretty good standing here. She was on Joe Biden's staff when he was in the Senate, and she's told the story in excruciating detail about Joe Biden pinning her against a wall and using his hands to sexually assault her. And as far as the media is concerned, I think they feel like they hit her in the back of the head with a shovel and buried her in a shallow grave outside of Las Vegas. They've ignored this story like nobody's business. And let's share a piece of the tweet from Tara Reade. She said, "I want to make something clear. If something happens to me, all roads lead to Joe Biden. Joe Biden and DNC political machine threats, bullying, and intimidation over the last 3 years will not work. I am not suicidal, and I should not be under investigation, nor am I a foreign agent, like maybe Hunter Biden is. I'm a private citizen." Now, listen, there's more to the tweet, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But, Congressman, you've invited Tara Reade up to Capitol Hill to testify at long last, and I think she deserves her day and a chance to tell her story. None of the American media have interviewed her. An Australian 60 Minutes crew interviewed her, and the American news media has completely ignored her. It's good to be a Democrat, huh?
Weeks ago, Marjorie Taylor Greene and I had the opportunity to interview Tara Reade. I found her to be one of the most credible witnesses I have ever interviewed in the practice of law or during my time in Congress. And what I can share with Newsmax exclusively tonight is that Marjorie Taylor Greene and I are sending a demand for records to the Secretary of the Senate because we believe that Tara Reade's employment records will further corroborate the claims she has made. I'm on this subcommittee that's supposed to look at the weaponization of our government, and nothing is a sicker weaponization than what her allegations set forth.
Yeah, and Jen, it's amazing how ignored this woman has been. And she came in on the tail end of the Pound Me Too movement.
Yeah.
And we were all supposed to believe all the women until she came along.
And her story just disappeared. I mean, what has it been? Over 3 years now, roughly 3 years since we first heard from her.
Right.
And it's been buried under the rug. The leftist media doesn't care unless it involves former President Trump.
Right.
And their woke Bible is believe all women, right? But unless you're abused by Joe Biden.
Or any Democrat, honestly.
Right, or any Democrat.
Bill Clinton, any Mercedes, it's pretty typical of the news media. And, honestly, as I say it all the time, it's good to be a Democrat because you can get away with murder.
You have to wonder if Joe Biden got his advice from Hillary Clinton when she was trying to, bury her husband's mistresses. But look, this is a very serious situation here because of the fact that they've tried to discredit Tara Reade many, many times. So I think the action that Congressman Gaetz is taking, as well as Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, I think it's important. Let's bring this transparency to the table. Let's deal with this issue that for too long they have tried to bury this woman. And it's so sad that she has to tweet out the fact that she is concerned about her life because of the fact that we have seen the weaponization of our government, and that the fact that these witnesses, these victims, that they don't feel safe in their own country.
Jason, how can you defend that? Those on the left, that they don't call attention to this. I think it's something that's very important that people need to hear from.
And before you do, there's actually more to Tara Reade's tweet, too, because she said, quoting now, "The tactics using intimidation and bullying to silence me and suppress me using the Department of Justice and FBI social media will not work. Leave me alone," she says. Why are so many Democrats
here's the thing.
predators?
What you all are saying about Democrats, we have to remember, who was it that expelled Al Franken? It was Democrats. Who was a Democrat? They expelled John Conyers. He was a Democrat. So this idea that that Democrats don't want to expel other Democrats, I think you should think about Republicans. Now, let's say I believe that Tara Reade deserves to be heard. So I'm okay with what Congressman is doing. I think that's okay. But we also need to hear from the 26 accusers of Donald Trump. Let's hear
we've
from
heard
them.
them time and time again.
Did you
Are you
bring them
kidding?
in? Hold
They're
on.
on
Did we bring them
every
into
TV.
Congress? I don't remember you interviewing them. And I'll say
doing what Tara Reade has done and coming forward with a willingness to offer that testimony.
Let's also talk about, again, I think Tara Reade deserves to be heard 100%. I believe victims or alleged victims deserve to be heard. Absolutely. But you also have to bring the fuller picture, because we all remember the stories like Brian Banks and others who have been falsely accused. So we also have to bring in witnesses, like the 5 witnesses who said that she praised Joe Biden, including as late as 2018. She also...
So someone can't praise someone that hurts
and
them?
she liked his tweets, retweeted him. So I think
what
it's
about
fair.
Eugene Carroll praising The Apprentice then?
Yeah, sure.
By your
I think
standard, then
that's
Eugene
fair.
Carroll would be similarly
That's a fair
discredited.
thing to discuss. I think that's fair. In a trial, what we saw in that trial, it was absolutely fair to bring that up. But I think it's also, if you're going to bring in people into Congress, you have to give them the opportunity. One of the things that the right always talks about, whether it was Kavanaugh or others, that they have the right to defend themselves or the right to hear all sides of the issue. So I would say the same thing when you're bringing in Tara Reade. You need to bring in all of the facts that are pertinent to this issue.
Let's hear Joe Biden's deposition then. We've been hearing a lot from former President Trump. I think it's time for Joe Biden to answer some of these questions. He won't get out in front of the press, but I think he needs to answer this and bury this once and for all. If he has nothing to hide, let's hear from him.
We'll have to, in Washington, create a permanent select committee on Democrats abusing women. What do you think? another permanent select committee. This town, I got to tell you, but the news media and Tara Reade is just one for the books. This is a woman. Look at Brett Kavanaugh and the nothing that all of that rested on. And you've got, nobody remembered the party. Nobody remembered any of this happening. All I can tell you is handing out red Solo cups, it boiled down to, at a high school party. And nobody remembered the two of them being in the same room or in the same house or in the same place at any time. Tara Reade actually worked for Joe Biden as a Senate staffer in his Senate office, and she told the story at the time. And this is one of the most credible stories that we've heard in a long, long time. And she's being completely ignored. It's extraordinary. Welcome back to the Right Squad. This is the part of our fabulous show where we're going to talk about the red hot content that's breaking the internet today. And in this woman's case, her bank account, too. Mercy, what do you have?
Well, I got to tell you, Chris, this one's fascinating. The Wheel of Fortune guess. Well, she mispronounced something. And let me tell you, Pat Sajak, he was not going to have it. He basically said you were wrong, and he moved to the next participant there. And Twitter got so mad. They went crazy. And they basically said, you went after her because of her accent. A couple of the tweets were, at Wheel of Fortune, at Pat Sajak, Me Too got robbed on that puzzle solve. Boo. Let's take a look.
And a moment's notice?
No. Jeremy.
At a moment's notice.
Yeah, almost got it, but it's at a moment's notice.
Okay, we should vote on this. Was it in or at? I think she said in, so I do. Don't you think so? I'm almost thinking that Pat Sajak was right, so he shouldn't.
Right.
I mean, seriously, I think she was wrong.
Well, I was reading along at the same time, so I had her as right. But I'm very generous. I would have given her the money.
You would have given her the money?
Yeah,
but she
sure.
needed to say it correctly.
Like Joe Biden's economic policies, you don't even have to earn it.
Here we go, Matt.
Congressman Matt Gaetz, what do you have for us?
Well, there is leaked video of me breaking the internet with Governor Ron DeSantis. This is back in 2018, and I am Ron DeSantis' debate coach. Now, many will assume that I leaked this video, but when you see it, you'll know I have an absolute alibi. Play the clip.
Is there any issue upon which you disagree with President Trump? Obviously there is, because I voted contrary to him, and I have to frame it in a way that's not going to piss off all his voters. And so what I do is I do what I think is right. I support his agenda in terms of what he's been able to do. If I have a disagreement, I talk to him in private.
So in that video, I am coaching up the governor, and while I support President Trump in his quest back to the White House, it seems as though Governor DeSantis is dealing with what a lot of folks deal with when they're having to engage in these campaigns, where you want to have Trump voters by your side, but obviously you've got to be able to grow the tent. So we were working on that at the time. But you know what really gets me? My own wife trolled me for this, tweeting the before and after photos. Put them up. There's Ginger Gaetz, the before and after photos. That's me from the debate prep with Ron DeSantis from the leaked videos. I certainly look far better with a wife.
The ginger.
I do have to say,
the wife glow up.
I give you kudos for your work with DeSantis back in 2018, though. You know what? You could have had a much worse alternative in Andrew Gillum as governor, being a team player for what you did there. So I don't think anybody should be attacking you for that.
I think you were drinking Bud Light. You must have been drinking Bud Light.
Bud heavy.
Jason, you're at bat.
Well, listen, somebody who could use the Matt Gaetz workout plan, Bill Barr, was actually being interviewed by Geraldo Rivera. Let's run that clip real quick.
Is Donald Trump fit to be president?
He does not have the discipline. He does not have the ability for strategic thinking and linear thinking or setting priorities or how to get things done in the system. It is a horror show. You may want his policies, but Trump will not deliver Trump policies. He will deliver chaos.
The last time I saw Geraldo in a crowd with a microphone, I was about to find out who was the father. So that was like a very strange clip that you chose.
Well, I'll tell you this. Bill Barr is not my favorite guy, but one thing we have to say for him is he's correct here. Trump failed on infrastructure. He failed on health care. He gave you 2 impeachments. But, hey, he gave you January 6th.
That's why he's up 7 points on Biden, according to the last ABC poll.
The best economy we have seen in decades, but he was terrible.
Wall Street Journal has Biden still winning. You know, with polls, you can just toss him out at this point.
ABC's in a
Wall Street Journal
left
wing.
Jen Pellegrino.
So Hollywood, we all know they've gone woke. They've been woke for a while. There's new requirements in Hollywood starting in 2024 that films have to meet these new inclusion standards in Hollywood. They'll have to have a certain percentage of actors or crew from underrepresented racial and ethnic groups. This is what actor Richard Dreyfuss had to say about that.
They make me vomit. It's an art. And no one should be telling me as an artist that I have to give in to the latest, most current idea of what morality is.
You know what? Bravo, Richard Dreyfuss. Hollywood has changed so much. Nobody's watching the awards shows anymore. People have tuned out. They're sick and tired of it. He obviously has done enough in his career that he's not worried about being canceled like some of these younger Hollywood elites. But I say good for him.
Yeah.
And I've never said that before either about Richard Dreyfuss, who has been a reliable leftist for decades now. And he's right about this one. I mean, this has got to be an indicator that Hollywood has, when they've gone too far for Richard Dreyfuss.
Well, in that quote, he advocates for blackface. So I think he's a little out of touch. Just like he has those glasses on the end of his nose
Democrats
there.
Too. Yeah. We'll start kicking off the blackface people, and you'll find Canadians and Democrats. Right?
Yeah, you'll find Megyn Kelly. You'll find a few Republicans in there too.
Man. Jen, you're up.
Thank you, Chris. Well, one thing is for sure, 2024 is already shaping up to be really entertaining. Joe Biden's top Democrat challenger as of this moment, Robert Kennedy Jr., he's not holding back with his controversial comments. The latest, blaming the establishment for the assassination of his uncle. Listen.
Who do you think really killed your uncle?
Well, I think there's overwhelming evidence that the CIA was involved in his murder. I think it's beyond a reasonable doubt at this point. The evidence is overwhelming that the CIA was involved in the murder and the cover-up.
I mean, definitely not your average Democrat talking point. Mercy,
Wow.
he is not.
Let's think about it. President Trump, who's all about breaking down the deep state, and there you have Robert, Kennedy Jr. saying the CIA, there's overwhelming evidence that my uncle was assassinated and they were involved. The big question will be, as we've all been waiting decades after decades, is when are all these documents going to be released? And so there has been talk with having the National Archives review all these documents, making them public this year. We'll see. This has been an ongoing situation, which you have to wonder, why would it take so long? We need to get to the bottom of it.
Even with the government, they're in that they're in the arc of the lost whatever, and Congress passed a law years ago requiring that these documents be made public by 2017, and then it didn't happen.
Presidents have waived that provision of law as is set forth in the statute. That's disappointing. I favor transparency. And here's what I've seen with my own eyes. When our government engages in a set of activities overseas, that often comes home. We've seen it with electioneering and misinformation. And we know our government has been involved in political assassinations overseas. And I certainly hope that that's not something that has come home to roost in our nation.
And tampering in elections overseas, the CIA well known for that.
Defining the nature of truth itself.
And tampering in our election in 2020 with that phony information operation letter signed by 51.
And 2016 and 2018 and 2022.
That's exactly, the CIA, I covered the CIA for about 10 years in my previous life. And all respect has been lost, I think, for the...
This is one area where I think we may all agree. I certainly don't trust the CIA for what they've done around the world, particularly in Africa. I don't know that there's overwhelming evidence. I'm a little skeptical there. I want to see this evidence. I think, if Congressman Gaetz and others can get it out there, then maybe I'll be moved. But we certainly know about their actions across the globe and the way they've disrupted other nations.
Go tell the squad, because I remember they showed up to Congress acting like the military was racist and everything we did overseas is evil. And now at every turn, they're wanting to expand NATO and they're wanting to go and engage more in the fight with Ukraine and Russia. No, but it is the national security state that there are not liberals anymore that stand against this. It used to be a classical liberal philosophy, and now they are totally posseed up with the deep state.
Let's talk about national security for a moment, because border is a big issue this week, right? Quite a pivot here. But Robert Kennedy Jr. did say, and I think we have the New York Post headline, he says that Biden should have closed the borders amid the immigration crisis. I think it's going to be Trump 2024, but this is what he would do if president, obviously taking a stand that we haven't seen from the Democrats. They've said the Republicans won't meet them with ideas. They've been down at the border. Congressman, you've been down at the border. They've been down there calling attention to this crisis since Joe Biden took office. Yeah. And then Democrats don't want to participate and do anything about this crisis.
Is about to be lifted, and that's going to make everything go even crazier down there. And a point that I love to make, because nobody else is making, Ellis Island was open and was the gateway to America for illegal immigrants for 62 years. And about 12 million people came through Ellis Island. We could have a number greater than that, and they came in legally. We could have a greater number than that come in illegally across our southern border during 4 years of Joe Biden.
Yeah, and this is where I hope Jason agrees with Republicans on this. But look, border security is critical. Every country needs to make sure that their border is secure. We need to have a legal immigration process that works. We are a very welcoming country. 1 million legal immigrants come to this country. It's out of control at the border. Drug cartels and the human traffickers are dominating the border and really leaving our communities in a weakened position. Yeah. Right, Jason?
So I think it's interesting. We do have an issue on our border. There's no question about that. But we need to be honest about what's actually happening right now. As Title 42, which was a public health determination that was supposed to protect, us during the COVID issue that we were having, and that was a global issue. Right now, the border is basically closed. You cannot get in right now. You cannot get in.
Should we bring Jason or our lying eyes?
What they've done is, if you'll let me finish before interrupting. What they've done is they've created this app where you can apply to get in, and you must look for asylum in countries before you actually get to the United States. So that is actually the policy that's going on. If you cross the border, there are going to be actual consequences, criminal consequences for crossing the border. And those are the rules that are going to come.
Hanging out with Mayorkas, I mean, come on, we know the border's not closed.
This is not a problem that we're unable to solve. There is no plan to deport the people with active deportation orders.
Why don't you guys
and the administration and the security?
Where's the immigration reform, man?
I'm for any immigration that doesn't have amnesty salted into it. That's why. By the way, well, hold on. We have our bill that is up this month. In the coming weeks, we'll pass it out of the House of Representatives without amnesty.
It's a lawless border, and we're becoming a lawless country, and that's that. Media reports say that Tucker Carlson and Twitter's Elon Musk were talking about potentially working together. The conversation comes as sources suggest that Tucker Carlson is busy plotting to build a media empire of his own. He posted a 2-minute, 15-second video on Twitter that got more than 75 million hits in about 2.5 days. I guess that's considered to be a pretty good performance.
Fox is jealous.
I'm not
Fox News is really
Fox News is jealous.
Different decision there.
I've never been a big fan of the whole Twitter universe myself, but
I am after Elon Musk, I have to admit. But it does. It's interesting because I think Tucker, he's such a huge phenomenon. He's bigger than Fox, right?
Sure.
And I think we were having this discussion earlier about he represents the intellectual side of conservatism, breaking it down into a simplistic way that all of us can understand, and really tackling these issues that nobody else wants to touch. And so for him, look, he can build a media empire on his own. He can work with Elon Musk. We are seeing this diversification of media where it goes with cable news, beyond cable news. He gave a video to CPAC Hungary, for example, was received very well. He spoke at an event where people were standing ovation. Right. So he's becoming the martyr, but at the end of the day, it's a huge benefit, I think, for him to continue to grow his brand.
I think Tucker Carlson is going to be just fine. He doesn't need Fox. I don't think he needs anybody right now. He can launch his own platform if he wants to. I mean, you look at Megyn Kelly, right? Been to several networks, former Fox. She's now got a podcast that has over 1 million subscribers. She's doing just fine. Tucker is bigger than the audience that's over at Fox, that's leaving Fox right now to come to Newsmax because they feel so betrayed. So I think he's going to be just fine. What I'm interested to see, though, I know obviously he's got his contract up until 2024. There's talk that he might moderate a debate that President Trump might join. That would be must-see TV.
Well, Tucker still works at Fox. That is the rub right now in some of these contract negotiations. So since he is still technically an employee there, I think President Trump would be entirely within his rights as the front-running candidate to say that he will participate in the debates that he might not have been so high on before if Tucker Carlson is the moderator. It would make President Trump a hero to Tucker's fans, and it would give us all a little Tucker fix that we've been badly needing.
A fair debate for once, I think.
Listen, I'll say this. Again, anybody who's expecting me to attack Tucker, I'm not gonna do that. I know the guy. I'm friendly with him. Just gonna put that out there again. But one of the things that I will say is, while I like to see corporations get taken down, I will say that Fox has weathered a lot of storms. We've seen them weather the storm with O'Reilly and the sexual harassment, and then we've seen them weather the whole thing with Roger Ailes. They made movies about it, and they always seem to make it out. So I don't know. As much as I would like to see this corporation, feel it a little bit, we'll see where this actually takes them in the long run. I'm not so sure that this is going to bring the Fox empire down. I think you're going to see Tucker. Tucker's going to be successful without question, but we'll see what happens with Fox.
I don't think they'll get back to their old numbers in that time slot, though.
Now, as Tucker works out his contract issues with Fox News, apparently prevents him from criticizing his former bosses. One Newsmax headline suggests Tucker Carlson is set to go nuclear on Fox. This is Newsmax. You got to listen to Newsmax. In an effort to free himself from his deal with Fox. So what is up with that? A source close to Tucker Carlson told Axios in a new report, said, quote, "The host knows where a lot of the bodies are buried, and he's ready to start drawing up a map."
Hey, good for him. After Irina Briganti released all these clips of him behind the scenes that are supposed to make Tucker Carlson look bad, and I think have only drawn his loyal followers towards him even more. Good for him.
I think it'll be the biggest mistake coming if they try to silence Tucker. There should be no attempt to try to silence him. He should be a voice, especially he's going to be a critical voice coming the 2024.
Well, he's more than a talk show host.
Yeah,
That's why we're discussing it here, because he is an ideological leader around this realignment we've had in Republican politics that has become more populist, and things were discussed on Tucker's program that typically don't get airtime in a lot of other places.
But it's not the first time someone's gone nuclear on Fox News. The other Gretchen Carlson, tried to do the same thing. It did not bring Fox News down. So again, I'll be waiting with my popcorn right here on Newsmax to see what actually happens. But I'm not so sure that this is going to bring the big News Corp empire down.
Isn't media changing? Can't we all agree that media is changing? It is becoming, I think, more of a splintered enterprise where the audience is up for grabs in a lot of different places, online, on cable, and that's why Newsmax has this great integrated platform with the app, with the website, and it keeps us all well informed.
And Fox getting rid of Tucker, and then obviously doing this backdoor attack on him has really not served them well at all. First, Bud Light abandons its conservative customer base by making transgender activist Dylan Mulvaney the face of the once staple beer everywhere in America, certainly in my household. Now the left doesn't like them either. This isn't going very well after the CEO issued this measly statement attempting to walk back some of the damage. Not really an apology, but almost. Said, "We never intended to be part of a discussion that divides people." Good thinking. My time serving this country taught me the importance of accountability and the value upon which America was founded. Freedom, hard work, and respect for one another. Sounds okay, except that the word freedom is, of course, a trigger word for liberals and the left. Now, gay bars in Illinois and elsewhere in the LGBTQ community at large are organizing a boycott of Anheuser-Busch. Not just Bud Light, but all their products for not supporting Dylan Mulvaney enough. Gosh, don't they know pleasing the left is a losing battle, a losing proposition? Let's turn to the squad to discuss Mercedes Bud Light.
Sounds like a double boycott. I mean, that's like the worst position for a woke corporation to be. You've lost the conservatives. You've lost just average American beer drinkers, for crying out loud, who are not even that political. And now you're also losing the gay community. So, look, they're obviously losing in this argument. They can't seem to find the middle ground. They went too far to begin with, and they totally lost respect for their customer base. Talk about respect for one another. They failed to respect the American
people. This should be a case study, a lesson for other corporations out there that think, hey, let's go woke, let's cave to the woke mob, because it doesn't work. You're going to upset part of your base, then you're going to upset everybody else, and then who do you have left as a consumer? I mean, from a purely business standpoint, Bud Light should have stuck with their consumers, which is sporting festivals, country music events, the base that had been following them for so long, and not worrying about this 2% of the population here.
It's like Harley Davidson going full trans. It just doesn't.
Exactly.
It just doesn't make any sense.
Not quite your audience.
The only person that's happy that Joe Biden is president is Jimmy Carter, and I'm sort of happy he lived to see this. And the only person that's happy about this Bud Light catastrophe is the guy that came up with New Coke. Because he suddenly looks like, he lived to see the day when someone did something stupider.
Beer was supposed to bring us together as a nation, and Bud Light went from #1 to now possibly sagging below Modelo at the Anheuser-Busch distributorships. We're in a circumstance where they're actually having to tell the employees to just take cases home because there is not a push through of the product. You just wonder why they didn't clean this up, Mercy. I mean, you know the basics of crisis comms is you get to where the story is going. They should have apologized, fired about a dozen people, and we'd be cheersing Bud Light on this show right now.
That's absolutely the case. Hey, listen, Two Bears Tavern is one of the bars that's shunning Bud Light, and here's their statement. Anheuser-Busch's decision to drop its support of Mulvaney in response to ignorant and hateful objections by some of its customers, most of its customers, shows how little Anheuser-Busch cares about the LGBTQIA plus community.
At the end of the day, though, this is about women. This is how it all started. This is Dylan Mulvaney making a mockery of women, and people don't like that. We're seeing men standing up for women, women saying this is not us, and they shouldn't have disrespected the female audience in that way. Jason.
So first of all, let me just say, Chris, you are such an 80s dad. You brought up New Coke. Really?
New Coke? They're still teaching that in business school, but now this replaces that catastrophe.
Let me just say, I don't necessarily think that putting Dylan Mulvaney, who I'd never heard of, on a bottle was exactly political, taking a political stance. It was trying to expand their audience. It didn't work out. It didn't work out very well. But let me just say this about both sides. When you have both sides angry at you, the NFL, that happened to the NFL at one point. Both sides were angry at the NFL, whether it was people who were for Kaepernick or people who were against them. Guess what? The NFL right now is making record profits. So we'll see what happens with Anheuser-Busch. Again, we'll see how people continue these boycotts or whether the corporation and the big money interests win in the long run.
Crazy.
I've said this before. Put Tucker Carlson's face on that beer can. I think you'll get some of your audience back.
Well, this has been so botched. And the woman, the Harvard and Wharton School woman that made this incredibly horrible decision will go down in history. And she'll be taught in business school for generations to come, too. She's still on leave, by the way, so she's still presumably collecting her salary.
Yeah, she's probably in a safe space trying to meditate, figure out what she did wrong. But come on, Dylan Mulvaney
trying to expand their
Bud
base.
Light, that's
a safe space.
you know what? It's
see
about
it.
the
It doesn't
Democrats
work.
politicizing absolutely
Man,
everything.
woman
That's
face.
snowflake.
And this whole please, and this whole transgender push from kindergarten and first grade, and you know, and everywhere
Are
you look,
first graders
the
drinking
Democrat
Bud
Party.
Light?
I'd rather give them a Bud
separate
Light than a mastectomy. Like if you had to choose Bud Light or gender blockers, I'd go with the Bud Light for the first graders.
Crazy, absolutely crazy.
Yeah, I'm going to go with neither, actually.
All right, and that's that. Okay, squad. Before we go, I want to play a little game. We've got a little game to play, and we're going to be playing, frequently here on the Right Squad, and it's called Caption This. So here's the photo of the day, squad. What captions do you guys have?
I would go with if you are at a Chelsea Handler concert, you need a beer, and because of Dylan Mulvaney, it probably won't be a Bud Light.
Chelsea Handler and Dylan Mulvaney, and you know, is Chelsea Handler? Is she anywhere? Is she popular?
She's not funny.
No, she hasn't been
not.
funny. She might have been funny for a minute.
No.
But not for a long
big
time.
fan.
And I don't know. Our whole culture has gone mad.
Well, I'd caption this as the remake of Bosom Buddies. You're familiar with the show, I'm sure, Chris, which was a Tom Hanks show back in the day of the two men had to dress up as women.
Right.
So that's definitely the remake of that. The Bosom Buddies.
The two men
remake.
dressed as women, Bosom Buddies,
Yeah,
and
that's
Tom
it.
Hanks.
Yep.
That's something that I never watched. You were probably a big Bosom Buddies fan, though.
Yeah, no, I actually, that's a little before my time. It's more you, but
There's a lot that's before your time.
Yeah, maybe. I'll tell you this. The way I would caption it would be two buds having a light chat. You know, so bringing a little Bud Light into that.
That's clever. I like that.
I think I'd go with toxic masculinity on this one.
Man.
Leave it at that.
Honestly, this is the bigger overarching issue is the Democrat Party is erasing women from the culture and telling us, all the best women are men these days. Biological men are winning the women's golf tournaments and track meets and weightlifting. Love the weightlifting one. Bicycle racing and that's women ought to be standing up. What happened to feminism? I remember feminism. Let's bring it back.
By the way, anybody who doesn't think we have global warming, hang out with me, man. Travel every major fire I've been to.
Don't hear no, because you know my saying? I eat no for breakfast.
I've been in and out of Iraq and Iran, but Iraq, not Iran. I misspoke. Iraq and Afghanistan over 30 times.
One day I'm going to write a cookbook, but I've started to actually write my recipes. The family joke is that if somebody asks me for the recipe, I'll just say, well, it's a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, we can hardly wait for that cookbook. Now let's introduce a little game that we're going to have on the Right Squad. It's time to play Who Said That? And here's how it goes. And please play along at home, of course, unless you live in San Francisco and you don't have a home, which is so often the case. I'm going to read a quote, and you're going to have to guess which political figure said that. All right? First up, this Republican got choked up when talking about none other than Joe Biden, saying, if you can't admire Joe Biden as a person, you got a problem. Well, was it Sarah Palin or was it Senator Lindsey Graham? Who said that?
I would have guessed Tony Bobulinski, but among those options, I'm going with Senator Lindsey Graham pre-Afghanistan withdrawal.
Senator Lindsey Graham pre-Afghanistan.
100% Senator Lindsey Graham.
100% Lindsey Graham.
Agreed. Lindsey Graham.
The Right Squad agrees. It's Lindsey Graham.
It's a sweep. Who was it? Too easy.
If you can't admire Joe Biden as a person, then it's probably you got a problem. You need to do some self-evaluation, because what's not to like?
Boy, oh boy. So there's Lindsey Graham. And here's one more real quick. Who said that? And here's the quote. One of the best ways of enslaving people is to keep them from education. A second way of enslaving people is to suppress the sources of information, not only by burning books, but by controlling all other ways in which ideas are transmitted. Now, that's a quote that's pertinent today. Was it Eleanor Roosevelt or was it Ronald Wilson Reagan?
I'm going with Eleanor.
Going with Eleanor said that.
I am.
Eleanor.
Eleanor, really, Eleanor.
I'm not just copying
I'm going to go Eleanor.
Congressman.
Going with
I
Eleanor.
have no idea. I'm going to have to go with Reagan just to be contrarian.
Just to be contrary.
Yeah.
Well, the answer is it was Eleanor Roosevelt that said that. And I tell you, it's pertinent to what's going on today in the country. With
Absolutely.
Democrat, yeah, right, yeah, child porn in grammar schools.
No.
Yeah, you guys, that goes to the woke agenda. Yeah, if anybody took pictures and posted online what is in those books, you'd have an FBI raid the next morning because it's child porn, and those are the books.
Child porn.
Yeah, that's not being banned. That's all right. Let's try one more. When referencing their longtime friendship, this person said of former President Donald Trump, said, even when he was much younger, you knew that he was going to go places. Was it former New York City Mayor Rudolph Giuliani, or was it New York Senator Shuckles the Lizard King Schumer? Squad, who said it? Mercy?
Oh, Lord. I'm going to go with Schumer.
Going to go with Schumer. Said Donald Trump's going places, knew even when he was young.
I'm going to go Rudy Giuliani.
Rudy Giuliani.
I would think Giuliani, but I'm going to go with Schumer.
Schumer and Trump way closer than a lot of people thought back in the day in New York. Trump supported Democrats and Republicans. I'm guessing it's the curveball and it's Schumer.
And that is correct. It was Schumer that said those nice things because, Donald Trump used to be in very good with all the Democrats.
Right.
And Oprah loved him and NBC. Right. NBC loved him. Everybody. Hollywood loved him.
He would give money to Schumer and to Nancy Pelosi. That was the thing back then. Because he was a businessman.
Yeah, that's right.
What he did.
And they were rentable.
Yeah.
So
still are.
Now, before we go, it's time to go counterattack. Listen, counterattacking the left's radical messaging. Let's talk about their woke left crazy agenda. Safe spaces for everyone, reparations, open borders. Here's an idea. It's the left, and this is what we're going to do a lot of on this show. We're going to pay attention to what's going on in the real world and what the media is not talking about, because the left's agenda, again, from transgenderism in kindergarten and child porn in grammar schools, what the Democrats seem to be big fans of, and poisoning Bud Light and everything else. And I used to drink Bud Light. That was my beer of choice. That's right. I admit it out loud too. But looking at the abuses of law enforcement, the FBI, the abuses of the CIA, and the corrupt media. We're going to be talking a lot about those things on the Right Squad. So, listen, that's it for tonight. Thank you for joining us on our premiere episode. And thanks to our panelists, too. And thank you at home for being part of our squad tonight. Have a great day and stay safe out there because, it gets crazier all the time. And it's crazy in Joe Biden's America.